Most Olympic Games aren't directly profitable, but rather incur losses. However, it's shocking to see how determined Beijing has been to voluntarily shoulder losses for the 2022 Winter Olympics. Blue skies are a constant in many countries, but for Beijing it's a stroke of luck. The Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, would feel humiliated if the following phenomena were to occur on a major occasion. The Beijing government has put forward a slogan to ensure that the Olympic Games will be held under a blue sky as a way to showcase how great the regime is. The slogan goes, "Ensure that the Olympic Games are held in the blue sky." At the end of this November, an order to stop industrial production was circulated on the internet in China. It says, according to the Ministry of Environmental Protection, the air in northern China, north of the Huaihe River, and western China is seriously polluted. To prepare for the blue skies of the Winter Olympics, the central government has decided to shut down all heavy industries in the mentioned heavily polluted areas by January 1st, 2022. The shutdown period is from January 1 to March 8th, 2022. The news is alarming because it means that China is about to begin a massive shutdown of production, covering almost all of northern China. Several Chinese media outlets have since stated that the news isn't true. Their most important basis for the dismissal is that on November 29, 2021, the China Iron and Steel Industry Association responded to the media, saying no such notification had been received. On the same day, the China Sand and Gravel Association released a statement that the credibility of the news was yet to be verified. On December 2nd, a large company in Shandong responded by saying, "The company hasn't received any notice from the relevant local departments regarding the suspension of production of the enterprise for the time being. We will pay close attention to the matter and will fulfill our information disclosure obligations promptly per the relevant requirements." Despite attempts to dispel the rumors, the Chinese media didn't dismiss the news completely as false, but rather seemed to have acknowledged it to some extent, as several major Chinese companies were reported to be paying close attention to the matter. Soon after, on December 5th, the validity of the news was confirmed by another news item. More than 20 steel companies in 13 provinces and cities have issued plans to suspend production for repairs up to March 15th, 2022. The report reads, "The purpose is to respond to the environmental pollution problem in the area around Beijing on the one hand, and to reduce crude steel production and explore for a practical change in the development of the steel industry on the other." In addition, various provinces have also issued notices of a staggered shutdown of heavy industry enterprises. They are to achieve emission reductions by suspending or restricting production. In principle, production should be halted if emissions exceed the standard or the targets of the emergency emission reduction. Production that can't be immediately halted should be reduced as much as possible. The Beijing Winter Olympics will be held from February 4th to 20th, 2022. Followed by the Winter Paralympic Games, which will begin on March 4th and end on March 13th. In terms of timing, the end of production of these large industrial enterprises in China coincides with the end date of the Winter Olympics. In other words, the Chinese government is indeed planning to stop production on a large scale, just not in the name of propping up the Winter Olympics. It's expected that this shutdown campaign will cover heavy industry in more than half of China's provinces or cities. Companies that are required to stop production won't receive any financial compensation from the government. It's not only the heavy industry in China that will be hit. Because it's part of the manufacturing supply chain and a downstream supplier to many export industries, a shutdown of such a long period is a huge blow to foreign exports. As a chain reaction, the downstream factories have started to shut down early to save costs. The China Paint Procurement Network reported that some enterprises in southern China's Guangdong province have announced a 3-month shutdown. Some in Shanghai and Shenzhen have announced that they have decided to take a holiday since December 1st due to a lack of orders. Moreover, they are unable to confirm the start date, which means they are on holiday indefinitely. Many printing, dyeing, and textile enterprises in Zhejiang have already taken a holiday. The ceramic industry in Guangxi and Jiangxi have also started to take a holiday. In addition, some regions in China have already started transportation controls, some for up to 6 months, to ensure blue skies for the Winter Olympics. Hebei Province, which is most closely related to the Winter Olympics venue and is also a province with a high concentration of industries, has banned the passage of different types of large trucks. In other words, the Chinese government is artificially creating a huge seasonal unemployment population in order to create blue skies for the Winter Olympics. According to data reported by the Chinese media, there are about 4 million people employed in the steel industry in China. The closure of a large number of heavy industries will push the price of industrial materials even higher, that is, artificially interfere with the supply chain, affecting not only the Chinese industry, but in some cases, even the international industrial chain. Moreover, China still suffers from serious outbreaks, and the Chinese people are not only losing their jobs, but their very survival is at risk. The combination of various elements is causing immeasurable damage to the current Chinese economy and straining people's lives. The budget announced by the Beijing authorities for the Winter Olympics is close to $4 billion, but the figures announced by the Chinese officials tend to be questionable. The previous budget for the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing was $4.6 billion, which later totaled $42 billion. According to the International Olympic Committee's official records, the Beijing Winter Olympic Games will utilize half of the venues from the 2008 Summer Olympics. Beijing is spending $1.51 billion on the construction of the Olympic Village and Stadium, $1.56 billion on the event programming budget, and $880 million on event operations from the International Olympic Committee, for a total of $3.95 billion. Beijing once thought that the event programming budget could be evened out through sponsorship and ticket revenue. But now, the odds are slim against offsetting the $1.56 billion event programming cost. Beijing is taking severe precautions in the face of the outbreak. Although spectators will be allowed to enter the Winter Olympics, they will be limited to those living in mainland China. We require 2 nucleic acid tests within 96 hours before they board the airplane. When entering China, they will have both nasal and throat swabs taken for nucleic acid tests at the customs so that we can screen out positive cases as early as possible. Athletes, officials, broadcasters, journalists, and a large number of Olympic staff will be forced to eat, sleep, work, and compete in a bubble-like environment from the day they arrive until the day they leave. Against this backdrop, it's conceivable that the Winter Olympics won't bring more tourists nor boost hotel accommodations, airline industry, and spending in Beijing. Take a look. Online celebrities used to come here to take pictures. Now, no one will come. It's hard to keep the store now. It's really hard. This is the Venice Mall. Not many people come here. It's become a ghost town. In terms of corporate sponsorship, the U.S. has already announced a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics.
The Biden administration will not send any diplomatic or official representation to the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics and Paralympic Games.
Australia, the UK, Canada, and New Zealand have also joined the boycott. Although this diplomatic move doesn't prohibit athletes, coaches, and accompanying officials from participating, it's predicted to be economically devastating. Many large corporations wanting to be sponsors will need to think more carefully. On December 22, 2021, the NHL announced that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, 50 games have been postponed in the regular season, and the NHL won't send players to compete in the Winter Games.
On the Olympic thing, I think if that is the case, it's obviously, in my opinion, a smart decision. I mean, I don't know who would really want to go under those circumstances, especially, I just put myself in that situation with with the family and this and that. There's zero chance that you'd want to run the risk of being stuck over there.
Being able to be stuck over there was the whole quarantine situation. But at the end of the day, I mean, you always, if you have a chance to represent your country, it's always a big honor and you want to do that. But at the same time, I mean, there's a lot on stake. And so, I mean, we just got to see what the decision going to be, and whatever case it will be, we'll see how it goes.
Given these factors, the willingness of the world's major media to broadcast the event should also decline. Let's continue to calculate the cost of the games. The costs announced by the Chinese government don't include all costs. The Beijing-Zhangjiakou high-speed railroad project has been brought forward because some of the snow sports will be held in the Changli district of Zhangjiakou, Hebei province. The cost of the project is about $3.8 billion US. Without the support of the dense working population in and around the city, a high-speed rail would be expensive. Not only would it be expensive to build, but would also cost a lot to keep it running at a substantial loss in the long run. Changli is a small district with a population of about 100,000. Because of the Winter Olympics, it will have two high-speed rails, a new high-speed railway and a highway that will run directly from Beijing to Changli. Another high-speed rail line is planned for Changli to the sparsely populated Shilinhot in Inner Mongolia. An article in China has described the small town Changli as follows. The European-style buildings on both sides are freshly decorated and painted in color, like a spooky fairy tale town. There are no pedestrians on the roads, and occasionally cars drive by. The stores are mostly skiing stores, restaurants, and hotels, most of which are closed. The Beijing Winter Olympics will open on February 4th, 2022. Even though they haven't been notified, locals are rumored that the ski resorts will be closed and tourists won't be able to enter. Changli, which relies heavily on the ski season, has no idea how it will survive this winter. Beijing won the bid for the Winter Olympics in 2015. At that time, the Chinese government didn't anticipate the series of events that followed, including the US-China trade war, the pandemic, and the diplomatic boycott from the West. It's fair to try to find a way to fulfill its obligations. However, the peculiar thing about the CCP is that after the series of events, the economic outlook for the Beijing Winter Olympics can be expected to be an absolute money-losing deal. The normal way to manage the situation is to stop losses early and as much as possible, rather than incur more costs to the extent of shutting down half of China's heavy industry for 3 months for the sake of a blue sky. But the CCP's values are not only different from, but even opposite to those of many countries in the world. According to the CCP mindset, saving face always comes first.
冬奥会4年一次，是运动员们展现自身风采的难得机遇。北京冬奥会的主角是各国运动员，而不是个别政客。那些叫嚷抵制的政客，为了政治私利作秀炒作，他们来或者不来，没有人会在意。对北京成功举办冬奥会也没有任何的影响。
我一直期盼着再过1个多月，你将访华并出席北京冬奥会开幕式。我对我们的冬奥之约十分的期待，愿同你携手，一起向未来，共同开启后疫情时期中俄关系的崭新的篇章。
The CCP is like a personality with a strong competitive streak. The more criticism it receives from the international community, the more it tries to counter the criticism by making the event more grand, lavish, and luxurious. Even in the wake of the huge losses, the CCP can proudly claim that they have succeeded in hosting a high-level event and have defeated the American imperialist conspiracy.